All right, welcome, welcome everybody. What is going on? What is up? One. Five. Sorry, it was my dad. My father. Call no man father. What's going on? I knew it'd only be a couple seconds, so that's why I got raptured. No, I was talking to my dad, my father. Call no man father. I call. All right, pile on in. I do have something to show you. Yeah, we're planning on maybe going up later to see my parents over in Lincoln, the cabin. When I came back from California, we had all the stuff from my wife's storage that we took out of storage that we're bringing up. We came in pretty late Friday night, and I'm like, I want to haul all that up the stairs up to the apartment. So we stopped by my parents' place cabin. We just dumped all that stuff in the garage, and we were thinking about going over later today to go through it and bring some of the stuff back. So he was just asking me about what time you're coming over. I'm like, and um, good news on the classes. I They opened it up yesterday, the Canvas, the free for teachers, and I did export all the classes, so I have those stored and all the information. I converted them into zip files, so whenever they make a new kind of platform through Canvas, they said something like September. I can then upload all of those, and those all of you will have that had purchased courses will then have access for that. Um, Again, thank you, Dave, for your wonderful contribution and tip. Tip's $10. He's our regular top contributor, and I want to thank him for that. I want to show. Keep forgetting to do this. I want to show you something. Hopefully, Logo Cinema will be putting out some more of these videos. But have you guys seen the Montanica recap video that they did? One second. I should watch it. Yeah, that's why we do Streamlabs is like I know I think how do you set up do you have to provide a credit card or something? Like I can't remember how it works. They did some change, but the reason why I do Streamlabs is yeah, YouTube takes a huge percentage out of. So I prefer Streamlabs. Alrighty, let's do this. Capture. Because I wanted to show you guys this. Ready? Isn't that cool? Good kind of recap. Hopefully more videos are coming out on that. So big shout out to Logo Cinema as our videographers and one of our sponsors for that. And I've been meaning to show you that. All right, what else is going on? Well, it's kind of funny. I was noticing some of these comments that people. So, if you remember the other night, I did a stream on evolution covering Dr. Nathan Jacobs' more recent video from 6 days ago on why he rejects evolution. And he was kind of going into uh, his. I remember Dr. Nathan Jacobs was, 13 years ago. Remember, I was a pro theistic evolutionist. I presented a paper at a philosophy conference, and Dr. Nathan Jacobs was there. And he's really, really kind of nice to me in his objection and talked to me about, I may possibly consider the objection that evolution's premised and presupposes nominalism, or premised on nominalism. And in order for it to work, both historically and philosophically, and I'd never heard that objection. And so he was in part responsible for me thinking about leaving and abandoning theistic evolution. So I was covering that video, and some of the comments are so funny. So this guy tries to make fun of me for. Let me see if I can open a new tab. What? Who was in there for that? And we can do a continuation of that. Well, of course, Darwinism's premised on a denial of teleology, but that's why it's premised on nominalism, right? Why is it that almost all modern contemporary philosophers today are nominalists? Because they're not real essentialists and they don't believe in real essences. And so, again, most now in contemporary philosophy, at least in analytic, that they're some sort of empiricist, physicalist, materialist. Which, if there are no real essences, obviously, essence there's teleology with essences in the world. So this is replaced by philosophical theories called nominalism, that there's nothing really out there essentially to be a bird or a dog or anything, that this is just ways the mind kind of categorizes empirical. What does Hume say? Manifold, the sense manifold. And so we use names and everything just becomes kind of formal, abstract kind of systems of logic and language and stuff like that by which you cash out kind of and explain nominalism and normativity and all this different stuff. And that is, yes, like essential to evolution. So in this, let's see if I can pull it up. Of course, there's always the people. Actually, let's read some of the comments. These are hilarious. All right, ready? Actually, this is not necessarily a vertebrate that evolves into. So he's talking about like the frog who has a bump on its butt, bump butt, and it starts to grow, and then this, ends up promoting survival. You know the whole story. Survival. But all this is accidental, right? But then this is kind of passed on, right? Some sort of trait. And then, so Dr. Nathan Jacobs forms a critique of this. Okay, so, and this guy obviously misses it. This guy says, a vertebrate that evolves into a mammal doesn't stop being a vertebrate. A mammal that evolves into a dolphin doesn't stop being a mammal. The dolphin's essence is composed from everything it has evolved from. That's the whole critique, is you're failing to that's why it's premised on nominalism. Is that, first of all, according to real essentialism, so having a bump on your butt is accidental property. Not essential to be a frog, to have a tail or a bump or something like that. Okay. Now, according to macroevolution, you have evolution of species, right? And for Aristotle, species is an essence or a form. And what Dr. Nathan Jacobs pointed out is you cannot get essential changes by an accumulation of accidental properties, changing accidental properties. Okay, so that's it. So first of all, that means evolution's incompatible with real essentialism. It won't work. But it could work if nominalism's true. Okay? Because there isn't anything really out there to be a frog or anything like that. So I don't have to worry about essential changes or substantial changes in an essence, because there are no essences. Furthermore, he made another critique of when we talk about there's no essential delineation between non-tail and tail. That's another problem in critique. So this guy doesn't even understand properties accumulate, they don't get erased. So I just trying to be nice. You aren't understanding Dr. Jacobs' critique. Perhaps you should watch the video again. Just think about it a little bit more. All the best. Joey N985, vertebrate and mammal aren't organisms that evolved from or into anything. They're just categories of traits. So he gets it. Okay, so the only way that you can make it work is on nominalism. Then what you do is you critique nominalism and be like, yeah, I don't believe in nominalism. And no orthodox can hold to nominalism. Let's pray for Adrian. Oh, then there was somebody, this was really hilarious. Some guy gets in and says, into the chat, the live chat, and says, I can't believe this guy's a deacon. Somebody, what? How did he phrase it? Somebody needs to get me and did it say defrock or like, what was it? Who was in the chat? Do you remember? That's in our chat right now. What this guy like came in. And by the way, that was from the Alex raid. So this often happens. Like, I get a bunch of weirdos from larger streams, like whether it's like Jim Bob or Alex or something like that, and you just get some real strange, odd people come in. Yes, there is a realism and nominalism are antithetical. Like, so I don't. They're literally defined that way. So I don't understand how somebody says the critique assumes that it's like there is. There's no way to say it. It's like saying she's pregnant and not pregnant assumes a dichotomy. It's like, yeah, that's. Australian Jack guy. So you remember, what was he saying? Like, I can't believe this guy is somebody's got to get me and make sure I'm not a deacon anymore or something. Like, it was really weird. I'm like, God forbid. God forbid I talk about critique evolution. They finally caught up to him, got him, and he was defrocked. Whoa, what happened? Well, he was forming philosophical critiques against evolution. Can you imagine? Either that or it's because I was telling jokes or something. Like, he was using humor, and we all know that the canons forbid clergy from ever being normal people and having a sense of humor. Essentially, can't believe you're like, I've heard this a lot. Like, people just come in, can't believe you're a deacon. And then people started trolling it. As soon as people started roasting him, he didn't have any. There's literally no way that that's the stupidest thing I've ever. How could you have a third position between nominalism and realism when nominalism is literally the rejection of essences? It'd be a third. That's got to be a new fallacy when it's literally logically impossible. I can't say that word literally. Forgive me. When it's logically impossible to be a third option and somebody, what would we call it? The third option fallacy? I've seen people try to get out of this, right? Anytime you present like an argument from a dichotomy, somebody just asserts, well, there could be a third option. It's like, just sit down, son. There's no third option. Orthoclips 26, yeah, defrock him, he made a joke. But I've heard this a lot, that like, well, that assumes there's a dichotomy. It's like, yeah, sit down. You're gonna have to sit this one out. If you're too stupid to... I mean, it's just part and parcel of things that, like, I just make... It's a type of ad hoc, like... But it's worse than just like an ad hoc... I literally just made something up that's not even logically possible to save my position. So, but there's this weird thing that, like, people are like, okay, it's like, somebody's got to get this guy. Call the clerical police. Have him arrested. Defrocked. And people started roasting that guy and dragging him because it's like, well, I'm glad to see that you're the episcopal judge of who should be clergy or not, based on a YouTube, like, it's weird. We should have been like, I can't believe this person's a human being. Somebody stripped him of his title. Yeah, we're talking about evolution. Okay, so, and the weird comments that I've gotten. All right, here's another one. So that's why he's get joke. This deacon's out of control. Somebody stop him. He just keeps getting away with it. The comments on these videos were toxic. Oh, I didn't even look at that. That's interesting. I want to see, I didn't even see 292 comments in 6 days. Oh, you're right. Realism versus Nous. Okay, so it was a little bit more. Realism does not necessarily require that all our terms attach to a genuine referent. There could be real structures, yet we misapprehend which structures are real and whether we are using... This is perfectly compatible with science, which assumes real structures but acknowledges that we might be mistaken in our descriptions. Oh, well, I don't think that realism... I think he's confusing realism with correspondence theory of truth. I don't think realism... So I'd say that that is a red herring. Jeez, dude. 22 replies to this guy. Let's see. Who is this guy anyways? Matt? So this is what you're talking about. But I want to see... I'll go through this later. There's Jim Bob. What are the nasty comments, though? I don't even see. I mean, there's 292. Theology must change according to science. There you go. That's hilarious. Let's see. I'm a nominalist theistic evolutionist. Okay. Oh my lord. That is the retard statement of the week. Theology must change according to science. What do you guys think? Leave a comment. Leave a comment on that one right there. That's hilarious. Why do you keep saying, aren't you the guy that says evolution is not a theory? I don't get what you're talking about. Weren't you the guy last time that just kept spamming that? How many philosophy of science classes have you had? Define theory, the etymology of theory, and then also fact. What a fact. And how do you determine what a fact is? Come on. Define what theory is, define what fact is, and then justify how you determine something as a fact. Big time 8147, $5. Strange how boomers swear up and down about fossils, yet the margin of error when asked to give his 40 million years. Good morning, Father. Good morning. Oh, I see what you're saying. The fact. Sorry, I thought you were arguing in favor of evolution by saying it's not a theory, it's a fact. But I see what you're doing. Sorry, can you forgive me? It's so hard to tell. You know how many weirdos we get in here, so forgive me for prejudging you, predetermining. I predestined you to be a spam. No, I just didn't pick up on what you were saying. Sometimes it's hard to tell, so forgive me for judging. I got what you're saying now. Pre-boot. So sorry about that. I did. Well, what's so weird about? Let's go over that guy's comment. theology should change to science. Which science? Elementalism, four elements, geocentric, phlogiston theory, quantum seafoam theory. Like, what are you talking about? Which science? Well, the newest one. Whatever's... If it's new, it must be true. That's... Hey, there's a bumper sticker for it. If it's new, it must be true. The myth of progress. And it's just a real ignorant statement concerning how science works. We talked about Thomas Kuhn, structure as a scientific revolution. If it's new, it's not true. That's not a principle. And if you study how science has changed, it's not that you're getting more knowledge. Well, we just discovered more facts and we abandoned our previous theory. That's not. So anybody that asserts that is just absolutely ignorant about philosophy of science and science itself. So, again, just based on a Kuhnian kind of understanding of scientific revolutions, how science changes, that argument itself is defeated. There's absolutely no reason. And number two, why? It doesn't answer which science. Okay, number three. Put the burden of why should theology, which is the highest science, that's literally the name, like that it's always been understood. True knowledge, true gnosis is blanked on the oh Lord have mercy. From Alexandria. Coffee. Come on, work. Anyways, it'll come to me. Explain to me how science can get to knowledge, given the following problems. So why should I actually take what is true knowledge and infallible, unchanging knowledge and change it to something, to a category that can't actually establish, you can't establish that there's even any knowledge. Why? Well, you're going to have to answer the following problems. The problem of induction. Science is based on induction. So you can never... Where's my science? My science book. Induction is not knowledge. In fact, it's circular. In fact, there's no way to even, as we've seen in my epistemology course, if you've taken, nobody's found a way to justify induction. Now we use it anyways, right? And as Bonjour says, maybe there's a pragmatic justification. But justification has... So it's interesting. There is some type of justification, but we have to say it in a non kind of epistemic way. But the problem is because we use it and it's successful in some sense, but like it literally is. God, there's that word again. Lord, strike me down if I use that word again. Correct me, Lord. Correct me from the use of literal. It is, in fact, not an epistemic category. So there's a weird way. It's like intuitively we kind of see that there's a legitimate usage of kind of pragma. It works, but we can't really apply the word justification because there's no way to get induction into an epistemic category. And so Bonjour concludes, therefore, even the pragmatic solution to induction is not, we're not justified by pragmatism. Number 3, you're going to have to explain the problem of the underdetermination of data. As Quine and Duheim are able to show, I can create multiple, possibly even infinite. I don't know if they say infinite, but theoretically it's possible. Scientific theories and paradigms that all fit the data and observation, but they contradict each other. So knowledge, if it's something like true justified belief, well, science can't provide knowledge if every scientific paradigm you could theoretically create could contradict each other. Because a contradiction means one's asserting the other one's false and it's true, and vice versa. But knowledge requires that one is true. But if both are legitimately true, then do you see what the problem is? Okay, so and which one do you pick? Again, this goes to the critique too. If theology is supposed to change to fit science, well, all of them, the possible scientific theory can make that fit the rules of science that work, it's underdetermined. There's like, well, which one? Which one do I? So it fails on that number. Am I number 3 or number 4? I always lose my numbers. The problem of an experiment. One second. I'm gonna read. I'm slow this morning. My coffee doesn't seem. I'm not tired. All right. I'm blanking on the. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use another word to remember. J.J. Thompson. J.J. Hey, J.J. This is the cathode array experiment. This is really, but let me. J.J. Thompson. 2930. Let's see if it's mentioned. Would you open your science scripture to page 29? It's Hertz. It's the historical, the Hertz versus J.J. Thompson. Let me get my glasses out, my science glasses. I mean, you can see the total scientism in this. All right. If a high voltage is connected across metal plates inserted at each end of the enclosed glass tube, an electric discharge occurs, causing various kinds of glowing within the tube. Wow! That's science! Look, science is glowing. The King James version of the infallible 66 books of science says, and this is real history, if the glass pressure within the tube is not too great, streamers are produced joining the negative plate. We call that the cathode. And the positive plate, the anode. I don't remember if we have any science people in here, but remember doing these experiments in the University of Science. Okay. These became known as cathode rays, and their nature was a matter of considerable interest to scientists at the time. German physicist Heinrich Himmler, Hertz, it's messing with you. It's Heinrich Hertz, conducted a series of experiments in the early 1880s intended to shed light on their nature. As a result of these experiments, Hertz concluded that cathode rays are not beams of charged particles. He reached this conclusion in part because the rays did not seem to be deflected when they were subjected to an electric field perpendicular to the direction of their motion, as would be expected of a beam of charged particles. We now regard Hertz's conclusion as false. Why? Because his experiments were inadequate. Before the century had ended, J.J. Thomson had conducted experiments that showed convincingly that cathode rays are deflected by electromagnetic fields in a way that is consistent with there being beams of charged particles, and was able to measure the ratio of the electric charge to the mass of particles. So what had happened is improved technology. Improved understanding of the situation made it possible for Thomson to improve on and reject Hertz's experimental results. The electrons constitute the cathode rays can ionize the molecules of gas in the tube, that is, displace an electron or two from them so that they become positively charged. These ions can collect on the metal plates in the apparatus and lead to what, from the point of view of the experiments under consideration, spurious electric fields. It was presumably such fields that prevented Hertz producing the deflection that Thomson was eventually able to produce and measure. The main way that Thomson was able to improve Hertz's effort was taking advantage of improved vacuum technology to remove more gas molecules from the tube. I'll end there. I could keep going on. Blessed be the name of science. Glory to science. Now, why did I bring that up? Because it looked like it was a good experiment. But there's all kinds of variables that, because you're not omniscient and don't know all the factors that you might miss. Namely, what I just mentioned. That it wasn't a perfect vacuum, and that was actually, there were things that were affecting that led to an erroneous conclusion from Hertz. Later, Thomson was able to identify that was a possibility, improve the technology through the improve the experiment through improved technology of vacuums, so that there was he didn't have the interference and was able to establish the deflections that Hertz had declared to be non-existent. Okay, so in light of that, here's my question. Any scientific experiment that you can construct can obviously, and that's just one example of the history of science, tons of them. There can miss something and lead to, and you think it's a perfectly, you got everything, right? You have a controlled environment. You isolated all possible variables, and you've done the scientific method where you repeat it. You repeat the observation and confirm the theory. And yet, later to find out in the future, you miss something. So unless you're omniscient, there's no way to actually create a correct experiment that would lead to knowing that's actually the case. So that's another problem. Also, kind of related to the theory of underdetermination of data, or the underdetermination of data thesis, is, and we go into this with A.F. Chalmers, the problem with observation. Because science is knowledge is the first chapter, right? Now, what's great, like, and a lot of authors work this way. What you do is you set up and you kind of steel man. Maybe it's this. Maybe science is knowledge derived from facts of experience. That's why I was asking the gentleman here before I knew he was on our side. Forgive me, I misinterpreted you. I misinterpreted the data. My experiment was not infallible. But to ask these scientists, okay, how is it knowledge? Is it derived from facts of experience, observation? What's a fact? And he goes through, well, it's got to be fact because seeing's believing. And visual experience, and then he critiques that. Visual experiences are not determined solely by the object viewed. And then you have the kind of Gestaltian kind of critiques that I provide. Same data, right? I see the same lines differently. I see it as an old lady. You see it as a young lady. So, and this kind of relates to my critique that I often apply to the fallacy of theory neutral facts. There's no quote unquote objective facts that you just see and look at, and because this is really this kind of naive position. Well, we just look at the facts, and that's why we changed and made our science better. But you can't. Facts are always, as Wilfred Sauer says, you don't just see something, you see it as something. And people see it as different. So what constitutes evidence, this is why people always say, like, I see no evidence for the existence of God. Well, that you failed right away by saying that, because you just assumed that evidence are theory neutral, and are not that the contaminated or changed or seen in different ways according to different ideas and theories and stuff like that. All right. And then he goes into what facts really kind of more about observed facts expressed as statements. The facts are really a property of statements. They're not out there anyway, so they're wrong about that. And then there's a problem about, like, our statements. Observed facts expressed as statements. So he critiques that. Why should facts precede theory? And then shows, again, that's my critique. It doesn't. He critiques that. The fallibility of observational statements. And so there was, I think, another That's another critique too. All of which is to say that I've presented so far that there's no way that you now I might be able to and people who are a bit who have some of these things right here, not that these are infallible, but these PhDs in philosophy of science might be able to provide more sophisticated ways of saying that science might be able to get at knowledge, but you're not going to be able to do it. None of these scientists or these people are going to. So that's why I put the burden of proof on them. Wait a minute, if you can't justify why science can get even remotely close to anything called knowledge for the following reasons, what's your justification that theology of the queen of science, which is infallible and doesn't change, should actually change, which is itself a contradiction, to a category and discipline that can't get to knowledge? That's my argument. QED. How did I miss this? Sauron. Question: is exterior parish design motif in any authoritative text? What does authoritative text mean? Thoughts on Russian Orthodox Neo-Gothic architecture or Romanian? Is that... I think I know what that... I don't think there's any text. I don't think it's a dogmatic... Are the Bronsko-Venesk... Are those the wooden parishes? No, I don't think there's any canons or any authority. It's just kind of a lived kind of like an expression of the theology. So, I mean, you could look at it and be like, I mean, if you're designing something, be like, that's not, it doesn't really fit the theology or the tradition of how far that can go. I mean, and the level of like you ought not to is an interesting question. All right. Chromanak, 5 euros. Thank you. Happy to support. God bless you, Father. Thank you. We had big time. Let me just see real quick. Oh, come on, dude. Yeah, those are definitely acceptable. The Romanian. I don't see any problem with that at all. I actually like them. I've been to some of these in Romania. And again, it's much like iconography too. Like, obviously, like, think about there's no authoritative canonical text on iconography, but it's understood with incarnationally within a lived tradition of living in and practicing orthodoxy, that you would know when we say uncanonical, I mean, obviously there's some like where there were councils about representing the Father and stuff like that. But beyond like things like that, there's no kind of. Well, so what do we know about the rules about like you have to live it, like you have to be within, and you have a kind of apprenticeship and stuff like that, in which you learn, how to do these things, and it's through the kind of experience and lived tradition that you know when things would be quote unquote canonically out of bounds. I would say the same thing with the architecture and construction and designs of uh, churches, and then within that, like there are obviously different traditions, and part of this too, just like with the iconography, it's in different areas. It's going to look different ways. That has to do part with the geography and practical concerns too, as well as the kind of history and influences and stuff like that. But um, yeah, good question. Cody sends in $10. Morning, I brought a copy of Repentance and Despair Letters to Theodore by Chrysostom. Didn't realize it was published by a Coptic, but it's on St. Vlad's Press. Should I read it? No, because Coptics put magic spells in. I don't know. Like, this is a kind of weird puritanicalism. Remember, let me just say there's an analogy that happened early in the church where people are asking whether they should read pagan philosopher, whether Christians should read pagan philosophers like Aristotle. And the decision was yes. Um, and the idea is you chew up what's good and spit out the seed. But it isn't like, well, this book, the meat was offered to idols or something like that, and we only read. Now there might be like, I don't know the book itself, but just because it came from, like, again, this prayer book's published by a schismatic monastery. I have some books like on the Theotokos, it's from the schismatic monastery. It's almost similar to the genetic fallacy. It must be wrong because of where it came from. Now that might be like, hey, I should be cautious. Maybe it isn't, but that's not a reason itself to what came from. Like, in fact, the schismatics actually tend to produce pretty good prayer books and books of, the Theotokos and stuff like that. So, unless somebody knows that book specifically is just garbage, I wouldn't say just because it was published by a Coptic seminary that you shouldn't read it. Um, all right, there was another comment I want. But it's like the same thing too. Like, how many times should Orthodox Christians listen to rock music, rock and roll, or secular music? That's another. It's like, are you a Baptist? Weird type of puritanical or something. It's weird. Just certain stuff again, and there's like a spectrum. Like, there's certain stuff you in lyrics you probably should not be listening to, and it depends on where you're at. Like, if you're a monastic, right? Like, no, you probably shouldn't because you're at a certain level and a certain, ascetical practice and stuff like that. But like, let's not be pharisaical Baptist pietists and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, it's secular. I just got diseased by looking at it. Yeah, that kind of stuff bothers me. In part because I grew up in Calvary Chapel, like I went to Calvary Chapel. They were like that. Rock and roll from the devil, son. Now, what's interesting, they used to show this video. They're actually right about a lot of, but it was their presentation. I'm like, these people are insane. But it's so funny they would show these videos where like it was actually based back in the like 90s, looking back on how many things Calvary Chapel got right about. But it was obviously extreme. Like the presentation was incorrect. They had an incorrect basis for making they weren't thoroughly justified in making those, even though they were correct. It's like they accidentally got the right answer about for the wrong reasons, and then their overreaction like nothing secular. And I remember my buddy Ryan and I making jokes about because we'd go over to like people's houses and it was like Veggie Tales are on TV. It's Christian TV. There's a Christian like what was the Christian radio station in Southern California? And it was like Christian music, and I'm like, isn't that funny? Like suppose it's like Christian food, Christian lunchbox, Christian car, um, not of this world, brother. Like they seriously got to the point where it was just like absurd. And so I grew up in that kind of. No, my parents weren't like that at all. But the people I went to, so many of the people I went to school with, and their parents were like that. And so I kind of have a vile reaction to when I see that same kind of mentality, people coming into orthodoxy, like I would never listen to secular music. Cody, $5. Thank you, Father. I was more trying to communicate if English translation of the church was reliable from Coptic. I don't know. I think so. Like, I wouldn't see necessarily a problem, but I haven't met, I haven't read much of it, any English translations from Coptic seminaries or not. Bluegrass is the devil's. Yeah, that's the movie Jesus Revolution. That's where I went. That was Pope Chuck Smith, Lonnie Frisbee. I do like Pantera. My wife hates it when I listen to Pantera. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's awesome ski music. But remember, everything was just like Christian metal bands, Christian rap bands, and they were awful. They were just like, all right, let's go to the other comment that I thought was hilarious. So obviously, this guy is being condescending and salty. Salty. What's the word I want to look? Pretentious. Like I don't know. What's the word? Ha ha ha! You've renounced the theory of evolution and you've subscribed to the theory that Helen Keller was a hoax. That is one of the most funny things I've read in a long. Helen Keller was a hoax. Hey, yeah. So we got to do a stream on. I just woke my mom up to this too. It. Okay, what do you? They're trying to make me come out that I'm just like a crazy like. First of all, I wrote my PhD thesis on I think a lot of it on evolution. I think I'm qualified. I'm not a quack. Like, what did you ever do in the theory of it, like in science? I have a minor in science, right? I have a PhD in philosophy and minor in philosophy. So, like, I think even if I'm wrong, I'm gonna loon right out. Just And now, see why they try to paint you like, oh, I bet you're one of those anti-vaxxers too. I bet you thought, I bet you thought the elections were rigged too, and the Earth is flat, and you believe in lizard people. And so they mix all that in. That's what I'm hearing in that comment right there about Helen Keller. What do you think? Am I wrong in my judgment? I was wrong in my judgment today. I misread one of our friends in the chat here. So, what say you? Do you hear it too? Actually, yes, you're insane because you're not crazy and retarded like us. I mean, come on, just take a few minutes. This is the problem. Remember, I talked about, Dr. David Patrick Harry and I had done a video a couple years ago about um what was the name of it? Oh, I almost said talking. Empty heads. That um for the majority of it was like 80 some percent. I can't remember. I'll have to find the number. Forgive me. People report not having inner monologue, but then it also matched uh, uh, roughly the same statistic. People who had no serious introspection, and I think it's related to this, Mike, because that requires stepping back and being like, rather than just being a kind of behavioral spot, input, output, and I just verbal diarrhea out of my mouth, whatever comes out. To stop and slow things down and think about it. That's a type of introspection. So let's just think about it. You have a deaf, dumb, blind girl, okay, who has deaf, dumb, and blind at 19 months. We have other cases where people later in life become deaf and blind, and the extreme difficulty that they have learning language, but it's possible. What's not possible is that young. Because in those situations, they'd already kind of learned language through their senses. But if you have no senses, like there's no way to get data in to inform any language because you don't form language at 19 months, it's impossible to teach a person language. And we have no cases of that at all. But supposedly we're supposed to believe this happens. But Helen Keller not only learns language, she's a genius. She's a lesbian genius who champions feminism, flies a plane, and all this is from like there's a video where she's like doing this on the hand, and she's like she says that and gives this whole long. I'm like, it's non-falsifiable. Is the other? It's like, wait a minute, you could just be totally making this up, and we're supposed to trust that that's actually the case. And there was a bunch of other weird stuff. She basically had a handler, right? And so what is she? She's used. She obviously doesn't know language. She's locked in her own head. Who even knows what it's like? Because there's no way to know what it's like for somebody who's basically born deaf, dumb, and blind. But obviously, it's not a language or thoughts, anything like we have or anything going on in there, like we have. And usually it's probably something pretty similar to feral children. So this is a very similar thing that if children at a certain young age, like her, are not actually given human stimulus and language entry kind of development things, um, the neural networks atrophy. They basically cut off, and you can't actually get them beyond the level of an animal. They can't learn, like, they basically at best maybe a proto language. So that's the same. She's probably at the level of a sophisticated animal. Um, Maybe more, maybe, but like that's, you get what I'm saying. Certainly, it is impossible that she demonstrates herself as a genius, and yet it's just a trust me, bro. Like, oh, we've decoded, but there's no way to actually verify how that's like. Well, how do we know? Well, you just have to trust me. I'm the interpreter. And then you look into these people. Yeah, it's like Stephen. Like, I'm starting to think of the same about Stephen Hawking too. I'm like, he could totally just be brain dead, and like it's just like hundreds of brilliant physicists writing up stuff. And that makes me crazy and a wacko, on par with people who believe in ice wall, flat Earth, and lizard people. Like, you're an idiot. But the more you look into the kind of background of who her handler, it's like it's a hoax. Like this, and then I'm made fun of because, and he actually, as Jim Bob said in his stream yesterday when I brought this up, absolutely 100% true that evolution's much more plausible than and believable than Helen Keller. In fact, if I was emperor, if you believed that Helen Keller was real, what they're telling you, you should have your driver's license and voting rights revoked. So I'd be like, you're clearly not capable of rational thought at any level, and you're definitely not going to be voting or driving a car. And it's such the people. There was like some lady, like, you should see. I should try to pull it up. The people defend, like, critiquing the Helen Keller, like, they're literally retarded normie Twitter girls and stuff. Like, actually, this is. But it's in the history book, yeah. And it's crazy how threatened people get. I still can't believe that. It's amazing. And how upset. Do you know I actually had people try to, like, fire me from my job for because I was skeptical of the whole dinosaur mythology? This guy doesn't believe they're dinosaur. I'm like, yeah, so, but not the whole story. That's crazy. What do you mean it's crazy? I'm supposed to be like, I mean, it's been caught over and over again, the hoaxes of them just like pasting um, bones together and just creating things like. But you're supposed to, you really, I'm the weirdo for thinking that there were beasts out there that were half lizard birds with chicken hands growing out of their breasts. Like, like, it was all you. Like, first of all, when I see something capture somebody, like a spell, and how hard it's pushed, Land Before Time and all these cards, like, and it just would capture children. Why was it pushed so hard on children? Because it was propaganda. And kids just love it. Like, like my buddy was saying, they're going to like a science museum. They weren't interested in anything, but as soon as they saw a dinosaur, oh, because it's mythology and it's propaganda. It was a story, and it was pushed and advertised at a young. This stuff was, which is weird, right? You don't see this like with other stuff in quote unquote science. And then it's all part of, it fits into the whole evolution narrative. Tails on birds and lizard mix match, you know, chicken hand wings on growing out of breasts, the chest of a lizard bird, monstrosity. So I believe in. Imagine there were some things of which we call dinosaurs that did exist. I definitely believe in dragons. I say that people like lose their mind. I'm like, why? Like, why are you so threatened? Well, I'll get this guy fired. I can't believe this guy's a deacon. Do you remember the can? It's like I remember at my ordination having to recite the canons of "I believe in one God, the Father Almighty," and and dinosaurs and theistic evolution, and Helen Keller. So you got me. I've I'm uncanonical and should have my priesthood taken from me. That's really how these normies. And notice there's such left, like that's like liberal leftoid tactics. Arresting. Just believe everything about the dinosaur myth. Again, I'm sure there's some. Yes, probably woolly mammoths and stuff. But the T Rex cannot be real. That's just. I mean, look at the thing, dude. Just. All right, the other funny one. Yeah, this one's great. I'll let you judge. This gentleman says FDA is a terrible streamer. Okay, my question. Two questions. Am I? Second question. It's got a happy face, which means it's a joke, right? Sarcasm. Or no, he's serious. This guy, man, he says that's how you can tell he's not doing it for clout. It's pretty funny. All right, I'm away. I tend to think because of the happy face, I would judge this guy as a friend, not a foe, and he's just making a joke. But I will let you decide. Friend or foe? I like always actually asking that when people come into the chat. Sometimes too. Are you friend or foe? Friends. You made a movie about it. So it's a fact. Have you seen this? Hold on a second. Friend. I think it's friend. The one I love is the boomer meme about the Jews. You gotta see this one's hilarious. Just makes me laugh every time. Who made this? Listen here, pal. I don't care how many terrorists Israel has committed. Acts to Israel has committed against Americans, or that they machine gunned life rafts after sinking the USS Liberty. I don't care how many times Jews have betrayed us and sold military secrets to enemy. Israel's our greatest ally because the Jews on TV say so. But like, I love the guy's all pointing like he's like total boomer. Anyways, that Dave, your comment reminded me of that, and it just makes me laugh every time I see it. Yeah, the more tabs, the more is a sign of higher intelligence. It means I can do 50, where you can only maybe do one or two things at one time. Once you reach this level of intelligence maxing, uh, where you can only do one or two things at once, like I can actually do 50, 60 things all at once. So and in the stream, I talked about my views. I don't think it's dogmatic about old Earth or young Earth, but I gave my arguments why I would be a young Earth. Anyway, so I just got a kick out of the comments. Oh, that's hilarious. Somebody. That would be great. No, there's no way you could infiltrate the Catholic Church and become the Pope. But that would be hilarious. Did you guys ever see the movie Conclave? Talk about predictive programming. Yeah, boomer brain rot, seriously. That is a funny. That would be a funny psyop though if somebody did. That actually make a good story rather than the movie Conclave. I remember Jay had saw it first, and then Jay wouldn't tell me. He was like, "Oh, it has a surprise ending," but he wouldn't tell me because it would have ruined. And I'm glad he didn't because it was a surprise ending. I'm like, of course, of course, that's how the movie ended. Yes, it's very accurate in many senses. All right, well, there was some other stuff. Questions? Then let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about your mother and father. Their archetypal quantum in your J.J. Thompson cathode mind. No, I have a cathode ray mind from your mother. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Um, but I want to take any questions before. Oh yeah, 5 pounds from Laos Veneris. Hansby's No God, No Science is the best book on evolution. Oh, thank you. Wondering what you think of Otto Phaser thinking Evo's. Yeah, well, that's what my PhD thesis was about. So I was in the PhD program from 2006 to um when did I defend it? Was it August? I was awarded my PhD December 2011, but I successfully defended. I think it was in August or September. I can't remember, of 2011. All right, who was I back then? I was not Orthodox. It was kind of amalgamation of I was attending. I was kind of Lutheran in my theology, obviously, but high liturgical. So I was like an Anglo Lutheran. I was going to the Church of Ireland because I appreciated high liturgy. Philosophically, I was a neo-Aristotelian kind of Thomistic uh, uh, emergentist. I believe I was arguing for emergentism, and I was committed realist. And I used Bernard Lonergan as a neo-Thomist uh, to basically take the Aristotelian position and adapt it into kind of modern scientific ways, and a theory of emergentism, which emergentism is. I was basically arguing against reductive physicalism and materialism and identity theories and stuff like that, which is the predominant theories within philosophy of mind. And Lonergan had basically, yeah, adopted, like most academics, like evolution, and particularly the Roman Catholics have. There was Cardinal Schönbrunn, I think, had written an article on theistic evolution and secondary causes and stuff like that. And I think he was even drawing from Bernard Lonergan and how it was compatible with Christianity. Lonergan is a realist, and so yes, that's exactly. And Fazer is, I'm sure he's well read in Lonergan, so he's probably pulling from a lot of that stuff. But most Catholics, actually, Roman Catholics, obviously they're realists, right? Most of them are probably Thomists, and so they're committed realism and believe in theistic evolution, just like I did. And I'm sure they use very similar arguments. But thank you for that. But say, have you forgiven your mother? Your mother lizard. Your mother loving lizard. Who evolved out of the primordial filth pool of the cosmos. I mean, the whole thing with the dinosaurs and like, it smacks of mythology, right? Like, it's a mythos. It's like mythos, a story, like, and it's religious in nature. Like, it seems obvious when you step back. I mean, we should always do that about anything. Just step back and think about it. Just lay it out. But like, what is it? Does that sound weird to me? Think about how much better we'd be in life, spiritually and intellectually, if we just did that with Muslims. Just stop back and think about it. Maybe what about I said? Maybe about a theory or a position or like, right? People don't do that. The ghost of Terence McKenna's lizard father from the mushroom. The lizard mushroom. Oh, do you want to see something satanic? That sounded terrible. Hey guys, you want to see something? All right. Super weird. It's happening here. Let's see. Noosh. comes up in my Facebook feeds, and it was like kind of, I'm like, what? Oh God, it's on my birthday too. Why, Lord? Okay, so just to give you kind of geography, I'm in Helena, the capital of the universe. I mean, Montana. Our town proper 30,000, and then it goes out into what's called the valley. Out that way, over the Continental Divide, is my parents' cabin. We're there, Lincoln, Montana, at Uncle Ted Kaczynski's cabin that I have so aptly named. Going south, where Mission Parish, 15 minutes in the mountains, is Clancy. Tiny little Norman Rockwell kind of little town of maybe 50, 100 people, I don't know. Keep going, the next little town's called Boulder, Montana. 300, I don't even know. It's pretty small too. That's exactly halfway. Boulder, Montana, where one of my godsons lives, is exactly halfway between Helena and Butte. Butte is where I serve on Sundays at Holy Trinity. Okay? So far, so good? You follow me? I've been to a bluegrass, like, kind of jam festival out in Boulder. So I guess they do concerts out there once in a while. But this is super weird. I started getting these ads for a thing called Moosh Festival. And they were weird. And I started looking into it, and I'm like, this is satanic. Totally satanic. Moosh Fest. It says here, a 2-day cosmic music gathering put on by extraterrestrials that care about the universe. Okay.
Welcome to the mystical valley of Boulder, Montana.
We just touched down and we want to show you around. Let's go. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of time watching the bands on the main stage. The main stage will be over here in this dirt patch. It's called the Portal Stage. That's where you're going to see Space Lady, Garrett T. Capps, Ty Walker and the Humanoids, Blitzen Trapper, a bunch of great bands. Over here we're going to have some great cosmic themed tents where you can get out of the sun, lounge around, enjoy a beer. Right over here, speaking of beer, is where the beer tent's going to be. It's provided by Lewis and Clark Brewery.
I love beer.
He loves beer.
I love beer.
This is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. Look at the mountains in the background.
Woo.
Gorgeous.
I love mountains. I love it here. I love camping.
All right, this is...
He's never camped before. This is where the camping area is. You can...
All right.
Oh, hey, it's Colin from Federale, and I'm here to let you know that we are coming to Montana to play Moosh Fest on Friday, August 14th, and we're real excited to be there.
Jenny! Sorry. Take two.
Well, hello, this is Eric Early from Blitzen Trapper. Letting you know that it's only a few more weeks until Moosh Fest. This is going to be Blitzen Trapper's only Montana performance this
I mean,
year.
you know these people are going to be eating mushrooms. But look at this. Okay, but it was in the description.
So don't miss it.
Find...
Come on out.
Here, let me do
Moosh Fest is going to be an exciting time of strange, otherworldly events. are coming out of the woodwork because changes are coming. Everyone can feel it. Some can see it. Don't be alarmed. Find the joy within and join us at Mooshfest.
All right, look at here. Cosmic teachings, alien ceremonies, games, and oddities. Literally demon worship. How crazy is that? So you think it's just kind of funny, like, oh, they're dressing up and just making fun of alien, like they're having sound baths and yoga. They're gonna slide this stuff in and literally having people worship. And what do? They dress up as aliens, and then you have a liturgical ceremony with music, and then you sing praise. It literally says they're like singing praises to aliens, i.e. demons. But notice how it's like, it's just fun. It's not. They do the same thing in, with musicians. Oh, they're just joking, you see. You can kind of hide it behind, oh, it's just entertainment. It's just art. It's not really. It's like, no, it's not. Montana UFOs. How long was I out for? How long did you have the mute? Okay. What was the last thing I said? Okay. That's crazy, huh? All right, so I was talking to my godson via text. I said, who lives in Boulder? I'm like, did you see this? Better stay away from it. And I talked to Jay about this. They did the same thing in the rave scene. They introduced this kind of new ageism. It was really interesting. I went to my first rave in 1996. I had no idea. Like, I had a friend, one of my best friends was like, I went to a rave. And it's beyond what, like, and he had, like, he was like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's crazy. Like, he told me it was Sodom and Gomorrah. And he's like, and you should never go. But the thing is, it's like the way he sold, and I'm like, it's like, dude, it's too crazy. You can't ever go to something. You don't ever want to, like, you'll never be, like, that kind of thing. Like, which obviously is an 18-year-old kid. You're like, well, I've got to see it, right? And there was just these weird elements in 1996. I had glow sticks, but not a pacifier. I could show you what I have a picture of myself in a rave in 1996. I had dreadlocks. Where is? And I developed a side where I had like ski goggles on with a ski. Was kind of like. One second. Stupid picture, but it's here. It is. It's crazy. I should have brought some pictures, but like I was going through my parents' house in California, getting stuff. Because remember getting the stuff from storage. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Orange Show. I can't believe you, San Bernardino. Listen to this one. The Arena. Remember that, San Bernardino? I went to all of like San Bernardino, and my first rave was in San Bernardino, the Girls and Boys Club, and it was called Oz. Crazy as that, and it was totally insane. Like they were literally playing Wizard of Oz. The whole theme was Wizard of Oz, which itself is MK Ultra, Project Monarch kind of. I can't believe you named that. Brought back the Orange Show. Yep. I had a total freak, like, lost my mind at the Orange Show, dude. That take me home. We took like 14 hits of LSD and like I got into some trouble. Like, we'll have to tell you someday about that story. It's actually kind of funny. It had to do with like theology and a bunch of weird stuff. But let me try to find this picture. It's hilarious. There it is. Can you see this? All right. Right there. Okay. These two people here are Orthodox now. I think the person that took the photo, my friend Doug, was Orthodox. Notice the mass. Wonder if that was predictive programming too. This was New Year's, Los Angeles. What's now known as the Convention Center. 96, 97 New Year's rave, and there was a riot that broke out right after, which was kind of crazy. All right. But they would be on ecstasy and they'd put the Vicks Vapor Rub on the mat. Like you would, but I just find it odd that and what was weird? No alcohol in raves back then. They were anti-alcohol. They were pro-psychedelics and ecstasy and stuff like that, but that was like bad vibe, and it was kind of true that you could see people who would come that were intoxicated on alcohol, like it didn't fit the kind of ethos that they were trying to create. Now there's this weird something in the 90s here, and I don't know, like raves in Europe and Britain were different than SoCal raves. And yeah, $5. Yeah, I remember straight edge raves like, the music's our drug, man. I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I hated straight edgers in high school. Absolutely, like my arch nemesis. Whereas my enemies were straight edge. I'm like, no, you obviously need drugs and alcohol for these things, and it's part of society, you see, historical society, and anyways, yeah, drink orange juice. That was another. Oh, remember the one, like, this is how stupid kids were. They would have, so you know how, like, you have, like, conspiracy, like, weird people be like, do you know that God spelled backward is dog? And the Egyptian dog, like, they just make these totally unconnected. Well, they did that, like, when we were in, like, high school, too. Be like, acid. And then they would say go to citric acid, which is in oranges. And then they would take another thing totally unconnected, that LSD is made from rotting ergot, and therefore they'd connect, totally unjustified. Therefore, rotting oranges, the mold on there has lysergic amines in it. And they'd be like, if you eat rotten oranges, you'll trip. And people believed it. They would. How many kids in high school in the 90s probably ate rotting oranges that did absolutely nothing because they thought they were going to get high and trip? And then it was connected to, orange juice has citric acid. And I'll tell you how stupid I was. I remember 1995, I went to a Grateful Dead concert. And with people who are all now Orthodox. So this is what I love is, like, if you look back on, it's like what man intended for you, my stupid mistakes, God, like, in his eternal providential plan is just like, he's an idiot. But we're going to make all these people Orthodoxy eventually. And so I really do appreciate that about the Lord, that he's been patient with us and that it all worked for the glory of the kingdom and God, despite our stupid mistakes. So, I remember I was 17 maybe, going to Calvary Chapel High School. I was taking chemistry. And at Calvary Chapel, like high trust, like they didn't lock up anything. Like I was constantly taking home. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, dude. This Aramar flask, take that for if I ever want to make LSD one day. Which would be totally impossible. Like that's one of the hardest. But I remember all these chemicals were just open, and like I remember I found a bottle of citric acid. It's citric. Have you ever had pure citric acid? Like chemistry quality. You put it on your like that's what they put on like sour balls, right? And like to make stuff. You're just like, oh. You're like, oh. So this is how stupid I was. I bought the theory, the conspiracy theory, that if you drink orange juice on LSD, you'll trip harder. It'll like, which is so stupid. It's like, what does it do? Just like accumulate? It's like acid. Like I don't even know what, but it's enough that like just like these conspiratards to actually be like, it kind of sounds like that. The word acid and acid, citric acid, like. Dog, God, Egypt, right? Like, anyways, so I went to this Grateful Dead concert and we'd taken like 4 hits of acid, like, but I snuck in a bag of, probably looked like a bag of meth or something like that, but it was actually citric acid. I just sat there tripping, like just eating. I was like, you're so out of it, you probably actually think that it's actually making you higher, but it probably gave me, I think I got a bunch of canker sores on my tongue because it just like pouring pure citric acid. What'd you do? I went to a Dead concert and looked for its acid and ate a bag of citric from taking chemistry class. Oh God, it's so stupid. Oh, I'll never forget that. Anyways, so with the rave scene was really interesting because I ended up going to that a few years later. I'd never heard, wasn't too familiar with raves. And what's interesting is they had this element of resurrecting. It had this kind of revolutionary, like counterculture, like something's going on, something's like. The same way that boomers felt about the 60s. The times are changing, right? We're waking up. Like, there's a revolution, brother, happening, man. And if you could just, like, get on board, man, you even understood what... That's by Dennis Hopper. It hurts to do Dennis Hopper voice. Man, if you even understood, he just has the power of like a revolution. Man, if you total stupid. But it had that same feeling. So there were elements of like the hippie put in to EDM. Okay, I'm trying to describe what. And then you had the drug scene too that was part of like so LSD, but the new element was like ecstasy with that. Then I've talked about this too. Another really weird thing that I've talked about before, the infantilization of society. So what do you get? The girls are dressed up like holding Care Bears and like pacifiers. Everything has this candy theme, right? And like big, like jeweled candy bracelets, and become a child, right? Like experience the world like a child. I remember it was just tripping. I'm like, what is this place? Oh, and then so the New Age kind of philosophy too. Oh, vibes. It's all about the vibe. Bad. I remember. That's the Bad Vibe crew. Like, they bring a bad vibe, and people talk about auras and like. So you have this New Age element coming in. Not only that, the alien stuff definitely was being pushed. Yeah, peace, love, unity, vibes, respect, all of that. Can you help me think of other things too that I remember actually thinking? Yeah, lollipops too. It's crazy to give people mental psychedelics. Yeah. It was such a weird crowd too because SoCal rave scene drew from all like, and you had these different people groups. You had people who came from San Diego County. Now San Diego's pretty chill. Orange County had a different vibe too. Then LA, they're definitely different. There was kind of a rougher, harder. Then the Inland Empire people. Palmdale, Victorville, and like those people were freaking weird. Those are people that went to like Moon Tribe and look like, hey, didn't I see you on that Mad Max movie? So my buddies like, these people are like from Mad Max. Like, don't go to like the desert raves and stuff like that. And they were out there, and that especially anything associated with the desert was always aliens. Now, isn't that interesting? And you just meet these people that would come to. It's like you live in Palmdale or like Adelante or Victorville, like that's crazy. And you came all the way because it was funny when we were driving back to Montana. I was actually thinking about that driving through, and it's developed a lot. But I'm like, that's a weird place. Like, can you imagine being born out as a teenager? Born as a teenager. Can you imagine being born as a teenager? Growing up and living out in a place like that, where it's like, there's nothing out there. It's like, so, yeah, I can imagine that they were like, that was the thing to do. It's like, oh, a rave. Like, that's, like, if I lived out there, I'd probably, that, meth, and motorbikes, and propane. I call it propane paradise out there. Anyways, I remember from the first rave, actually having a thought that I'm like, what if this is a CIA, like, psyop, culture creation kind of. I was joking with my godson yesterday. I'm like, Yet I still went, right? I'm like, I actually thought that might actually be the case. Like they're giving you and then what was really crazy, I remember in the first rape at the Boys and Girls Club in San Bernardino, like they had racquetball courts, right? And you could sit and trip out in a racquetball court while they're playing in kind of this techno weird vision. They had a projector playing the Wizard of Oz movie. And you just sit there on drugs, just watching, being programmed, basically, with them. And I remember, like, this is. Anyways, it is a psyop. It's a total CIA psyop. Like, it's clear. And to bring in these ideas, like you said, the religion of the future, to bring in these kind of and subvert and change people's minds. And they're all young people. In fact, if there was an old person, it was like totally creepy. You're like, what is that guy doing, dude? It's like, oh man, he's been raving since 1970. Like, I remember I was always discussing if you saw an old person that was like, oh man, that's like the top raver, man. Like he's been raving for 50 years. And you knew that it's like, I hope that's not me. That you had the sense of, this is a childish thing, and when I grow up, I'm going to put away childish things. And so you saw the guy that didn't, and you're like, that's gross and sad. But why did I bring that up? Oh, it's because I'm seeing some of the same elements, this kind of whole alien. That was the age of the beeper, yeah, and dial-up. So here's how you had to do it. This is before it was commercialized, and they had groove radio. That was the only way that you, or if you were at a record shop, that it was all underground. And it used to, prior to 1996, in the early 90s, late 80s, which I wasn't involved in, used to be even more underground. But this is how you went to a rave in 1996 in Southern California. Yeah, 42911. You listen to groove radio. And then they talk about a rave and be like, tickets going on sale at Dr. Freecloud's record store. And it was a period of time. So you drove, and whatever record, local, they named the record shops and stuff like that. So Dr. Freecloud's was in Costa Mesa. Sometimes it wasn't at Dr. Freecloud. Sometimes it was at a record shop in North Hollywood. So, and they would go on sale at like 9 p.m., 8 or 9. So you'd have to drive out to Hollywood or go to Dr. Freecloud's records. And then you buy the ticket there, and it's like you have a ticket to go to get, and then you'd have to go somewhere else. You'd have to go, because I remember that happening several times. Go to Dr. Freecloud's. You pay the money, you get a ticket to go to the record store in North Hollywood to then actually get the actual ticket. So it's like you show, and then they're like, oh, this is at the Orange Show in San Bernardino, or the Girls and Boys Club, or like there were a lot of raves in San Bernardino, and San Bernardino is a weird place. It's just like a dead industrial kind of, there was places in Riverside too, but a lot of kind of industrial warehouses and places like that. And the reason why you could have a loud rave. Now I think at that point, prior to that, they were actually illegal. The people I think, because I remember raves getting shut down because the police would come and they didn't have permits. So at that point in 1996, like, yeah, these people are supposed to, the promoters are supposed to get the permits and stuff like that. and they're legitimately renting. But it's somewhat underground. That's how it actually worked back then. And then it probably, I don't know, I started in 1999 is probably when I got out of, but that's when like all of a sudden it started being commercialized. Like K-Rock now is like announcing, and they're going to do like, this is now when the festival scene starts to come on, like just the 1999, 2000. In fact, it's a 2000, when did I go? 2001 or 2000? I can't remember. I went to my first Coachella. Coachella was kind of the first of the festival scenes. But all of that was kind of merging together, right? So it had already been hijacked and appropriated. And now you can, pay like $300-400 a day, right? And it's all a bunch of rich, like, elite people, and so it's weird. It's changed. Not that I've been one, but just from seeing and this kind of stuff. Anyways, questions about that. But it's a way to change people's minds, like, and introduce subtly, be like, oh, it's just fun, you see. It's just a joke. We're just dressing up. The musicians are just being edgy. They don't really believe. It's like, what year was this? It was actually some of the same people from the racing. We're all Orthodox now. We're in Southern California, and it's my buddy's birthday. And his sister calls me. It was like, hey, we should buy Doug, he likes Smashing Pumpkins. Smashing Pumpkins are in town. They're playing at the Forum in Inglewood. I never was that big of a Smashing Pumpkins fan. But I love my friend. He's one of my best friends. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. We're all together, whatever. How many times have we gone to a concert? Like I'm really not into the band, but I like my friends, and it'd be a good time just hanging out. And my wife's like, I don't want to go see that satanic band. I don't even know why she said that, but I was like, Smashing Pumpkins. They're satanic. She was totally spot on. We get to the concert. He comes out dressed up, and he's like being carried like on a sedan chair. If you know what a sedan chair is. And they've decorated it, and he's like as the Virgin of Guadalupe. And I'm like, what in the heck? And the people are like touching it and worshiping it. Oh, it's just a joke. He's just an artist. You see? Do you see what's going on? And it's so funny that the sober people, us, because I'm sure other people were intoxicated and stuff like that, there was full-on demonic images and demons coming out on the screen, and Billy Corgan was just, he designed it all like this. And there was a liturgical worship of demons happening at the Smashing Pumpkins concert in like 2018 or something. And I'm looking around and I'm like, does nobody else see this? Like, they don't, because they're intoxicated, whether they're actually on drugs or just they haven't stepped back. And it was only us Orthodox. They were like, I can't believe, like, we gotta leave. Like, I was getting a headache, and I'm like, we all felt sick. And Billy Corgan's come out recently, and like, it's really weird. Like, he talks about satanic Hollywood and the music industry, but they play it fun, like I'm not part of it. I'm the whistleblower. It's like, you totally are. I saw the. But do you see how they can hide behind? Oh, it's just a joke. It's just art. Like, we're not. That's an excellent way to slip things in and move the goalpost and slide your hands around and be like, nah, it's not really, but I'm programming you with messages and images, and you're involved in worship. So going back full circle to some of those questions about, like, should Orthodox Christians listen to secular music? Like, for the most part, I would not go to a satanic Billy Corgan concert if he was doing that stuff. Isn't that weird? Absolutely. Pop music is more satanic than metal. People laugh at. I remember like somebody, a parishioner is not very. This person wasn't very obviously orthodox. They were super liberal, but I was going off on Billie Eilish. I'm like, Billie Eilish is satanic, like, and they were making fun of me. Oh, really? And I'm like, get out of here, you stupid boomer. Like like we just put you in a convalescent home at this point. Like you're incapable of like any reasonable thoughts whatsoever. 80s cartoons, that's interesting, yeah. I don't know, but I think really Graceful did a whole video years back about after that concert, she did a video of it too, and I'm like, see, I'm like, it wasn't just us imagining stuff. Like now I don't know if he's been doing that. You know where you don't get it? Bluegrass. Bluegrass is rooted in, I mean, even if it's Protestant, like gospel, like in kind of Christianity and kind of like the folk music of America. All right, let's see if you have any super chats. Otherwise, I need to, or questions. I need to take off. I got work to do. But the Moosh Fest makes me angry. It's happening in my. Okay, here's a really difficult question for you. What's worse, Moosh Fest or the Pride festivals that they do? Yes, U.S. certain school districts over transgender policies. Unfortunately, there's some gays that moved into Helena. First of all, Helena has a like different cities are different in Montana, like different types of liberals. And I describe Helena has like DC liberals. Why? Because it's the capital and they do politics here. The Democratic headquarters of Montana is in Helena. And like kind of public school, white-haired, boomer, ballot harvester, are you registered to vote kind of, and then that's basically like the majority of Helena. They're all old boomer, get out and vote, public school, liberal kind of. Missoula is green-haired Portland, Seattle liberal. They got the university there. And a lot of people come from, guess where? Seattle and Portland there. And it feels like that. Bozeman is SoCal liberal. Like Orange County, they look conservative. They look, they're dressed nice, kind of yuppie, wealthy. Southern California, but they're liberal and they vote down. Butte, old school Union Democrat liberal. All right. But there's people that have come in, for example, and they always go into the cities, just where the demons do too. because he can do as much damage as possible. Why is it as soon as you leave the city, it's like they're the most kind of conservative, like really conservative people, but in the cities, and notice fags love cities, right? Especially gay men. I think Montana has a lot of lesbians, and that's because they like more rural areas, because they're taking on masculine. Like, I like to hike and fish and cut my hair short and be fat for some reason. They're all fat. I don't get it. I like the outdoors, and clearly you don't, because you're totally fat and disgusting looking. Gay men love cities. Why? Because there's more dudes they can find, right? And like the whole kind of, they're more in, like, their sexual passions are out of control, and they like that city life and kind of, so anyways. But I think there is something to that liberals and fags specifically target cities too, because they do more damage. I don't think it's conscious, but they like the metropolitan area, and like they get more of their propaganda. What do? They come from outside. We have a situation here in Helena where her and her wife, girlfriend thing met while in Portland while in college. Oh, shocker, right? Moved to Montana, and they buy a bookstore called Montana Books. And they receive tons of outside money, and they have these kind of lobbyist groups and funding, Montana Pride. They literally create stickers of Montana with fag colors on and they put tons of money into this, putting on festivals and putting the stick. It's a religious proselytization, propagandizing of to change the culture. And one of the things that they do, they host on Pride Month, like a Pride week or something like that. And there's like events and now what's really interesting, this was the first year. Now they do this in all cities. There's nowhere that you can escape. There's not a state. Maybe, I don't know if Alaska does stuff that's too remote. If anybody's in Alaska, they can tell me. But there's no conservative state where you're going to be immune from this. There's nowhere to go. Fags are like cancer. They're everywhere, and you can't get rid of them. Just protect your children. So they do these parades and festivals. A couple years ago it was in Helena, and it's funded and promoted by Montana Books Company, which is the two lesbo that own, and they're the propagandists. Okay. What's interesting, tell me in your state if you noticed this too, because I saw articles about it. People are tired of it. They published articles, these LGBT magazines, worst Pride Month ever. And they're really scared that people are becoming homophobes, right? Nobody's scared of poop fetishes. We find it disgusting, a stain on society and a moral corruption. We don't want it. I don't even care what you're like. And they want you to get into a dialogue, right? Like, no, there's no dialogue with, that was the Trojan horse that stupid normies fell for 30 years ago, right? This stuff needs to be full force of law eliminated. I'm not interested in having a conversation with somebody, unless it's pastorally, somebody's struggling with same-sex attraction or something like that, and be nice about kind of working through. These people, don't even engage with them. But it's interesting, they're freaking out. Because big companies are rolling, but they're finding that it's people don't want this shoved down their throats. Pushed, it's like, and they always do this. They push too hard. And this is kind of the nature of evil itself, is that not only is it destructive, it's self-destructive. It eats itself. It eats one of it. Not only it's parasitic and vampiric, right? But it also turns on itself and starts eating and destroying itself, because there's no life in it, right? And if it's destructive, it's also self-destructive. And I see this kind of happening. And so this started happening with big corporations and companies. It's like, do you know how much money Target and these places lost? Now, they were trying to accommodate that by saying, okay, well, you'll lose even more money because you have to get these kind of credits as a company or an institution that if you don't, pinch incense to the fag flag and engage in your civic sodomizing propaganda, then you can't buy, sell, or trade, right? This is kind of like symbolically like a type of mark of the beast, right? And so it didn't matter if a company like Target was losing money or not, because they would lose more money with these kind of control mechanisms through this kind of credit and pushing. And by the way, Hollywood's that way too. You ever notice that you can't be nominated for an Emmy? You're watching a film, it's perfectly fine, and they put a fag or a tranny in, right? I just noticed this the other day. We were watching with that Tom Hanks, and what's the name of the movie? He loses his wife, and there's a cat that enters into his life. Mr. something, I can't remember. Like, totally nice, enjoyable family movie, and they put a tranny in there. Right in the middle, like, it doesn't even fit into the story. Okay, one sec. So it's like I brought up, and I was talking to my wife, and she said, that's because you have to just throw in something so you can mark the check marks that, okay, I qualified for all the woke stuff that I can get possibly in the category of being nominated for an Emmy. So this was going on in the corporate world too. But this year was kind of interesting. It was like the first kind of year that wasn't working. Like, it worked for a little while. These companies were just like, no. And they started pulling all that stuff. Target and other companies. And then the pride, like, you got a lot more pushback from people speaking. They're tired of it. And these are people, I think, that are just like middle of the road. They're not necessarily opposed to it itself, right? They're kind of secular. But they're like, most normal people, just whatever they think about it, don't want to see it in their faces and push and like a religion and push down their throat. That's my kind of take. And so there was pushback, and it wasn't popular, and it flopped. Fag month flopped this. And so I beautifully didn't see anything, I think, in my city about, but I don't live in Missoula either, so I don't know if they did something in Missoula but it was great. Did you have that same experience in your city? That's my question. Is the world healing? I can't imagine what. What say you? All right. So that was good. I mean, we should always be thankful for stuff and kind of think about the good things. Because I always dread. And June is Montanica, too. I should be so happy going into June. And yet I always dread. I'm like, ugh, fags. Fag month is coming. Poop. Poop, my friend. It's poop month. And the reason why I use that language, I was taught by, some bioethicists, to be real, to get to the nitty-gritty in our language, because they try to hide the actual evil and disgustingness. Like, there's no fear. I'm not afraid of... This is exactly what children say. Oh, you're afraid to touch the poop and eat it? Dare you? He's afraid. Like, that's childlike. And it's a mix, right? They're using the word phobia, right? Because they're bringing kind of Freudianism in with, I think, a very childlike tactic to be like, oh, it's an irrational fear from your mother's and father's archetypical quantum J.J. Thompson cathode ray pineal gland. Your pineal gland's a cathode ray of rainbow colors, and you're scared. Yeah, you fear what you don't kind of understand. It's this kind of pathology. You're the weirdos, and you're the one that needs medical, which is interesting because gender dysphoria and homosexuality was actually considered a mental disorder in the DSM, right? And notice how they flipped it. It's like, actually, you're the crazy. You actually need to go to a mental hospital because you have a phobia. So I'm just like, I'm not scared of it. I find it just morally and socially disgusting and reprehensible and corrupting. And I don't care what the argument is. Like, it needs to be eliminated by any means necessary. And they'll talk about rights. First of all, don't talk to rights. I don't believe in rights. So you're not going to win that argument with, hello, listener. Hey, bud. Good to see you. Check out his fun. He always does fun kind of streams and music. Glad you're here. Make mental institutions great again. Yeah, lock up fags. That would be a great shirt to wear. Somebody make one of those. We'll sell them on Patristic Faith. You know they'll come for my job if that. I don't. But how can they get fired? Like, they can't fire me for, like, it's a Catholic institution. Now I know you're laughing at that, but on paper, right? Oh, I know all about. I've installed spyware. I am watching all of you. By the way, I mess with my students. I'm trying to, these last semesters, be like, you can't use digital devices unless you're kind of a medical note. And you need something like that. But inevitably they start sneaking it out. But times past where I didn't kind of apply this rule, I'm like, I know you're not paying attention. You're not looking up the notes or something like that. And they're like, how do I know that? I'm like, because I've installed spyware on all of your computers. They're so gullible. People fear stuff. Like, you're the most gullible about the thing you fear. So they totally fall for it all the time. I'm like, I'm just messing. I'm like, but you got to keep them guessing after. I'd be like, or am I? So I love keeping my students uneasy. Like, you never know. Am I, like, totally psychopath installing spyware on hello listener's computer, watching? I'm like, that's an iPhone right there. So you're going to get yourself a soda pop from the fridge? Looks like you are, because I've installed the camera over in the other room. He has been having tech issues. I'm sorry. I'll upgrade the drivers of my spyware. Your drivers so my spyware works better on your computer. Yeah, people are always like say something like, I know everything about like. By the way, I do feel like that's kind of my diaconal duties. I'm like, my ears and eyes are everywhere watching stuff. I'm like, I know a lot about people and what's going on. It's my duty. And but yeah, like they're not gonna fire me from my job because this stuff's actually come up before. I've talked to the dean about it. They're like, what you say? First of all, it represents. So you don't like my language? I'm a little bit rough with my language. I'm not using it in class. They're like, it doesn't matter what you said. They protect free speech. But they're gonna be like, he's homophobic. Like Catholics' doctrine on human sexuality agrees with me, at least on paper. So you can't. These people don't care. They try to do everything. I'm like, they've tried to do it several times. I'm like, no, they're on my side, not your side. You're not gonna. And of course, I would never. Students are too sensitive to the F word. You can't use that, obviously. I have used the R word, and even that was. And it's always girls. It's always women. Like, they're like, oh, put it in one of the student evals. This is the worst teacher ever. He used the R word and made jokes about domestic violence. I'm like, use that as an advertiser to sign up for my courses. Wouldn't you take it and be like, dude, that's the professor I want. He uses the R word and makes jokes about domestic violence. And I wasn't making jokes about domestic violence. Like, I was cleverly, in a humorous way, pointing out fallacies in logic class about how you could use the word science to justify bad things. So I've already admitted, I'm not making light of it. I'm already admitted, these things are bad, but look how somebody could justify, oh, it's not brainwashing, it's social engineering. It's not spousal abuse, Your Honor, it's marital physics. They lost their mind over that. I thought that was kind of clever and funny. But it's not making light of. These people are so like, this semester I'm making sure, if you're one of these persons, get out of my class. Like, you're not going to enjoy my class. If you're sensitive, you're going to try to tone police me in my. If you're a libtard, leftoid, I'm not going to be talking about, politics and stuff like that. But you're not going to like my class. Do yourself a favor and leave. Number 3, they were complaining about, this isn't a religion class, and he was talking about orthodoxy and religion all the time. I'm like, why are you complaining about, you talked about God at a Catholic college. It's like, you obviously college is not for you. You're retarded. Well, I'm not proselytizing. Like, we were doing logic and seeing how logic applied to, I'm like, I'll show you how this exact thing related. It came up into a debate. So we're constantly analyzing debates, whether they're philosophical debates or religious. I kind of stayed away. There was only a couple times I talked about kind of analyzing political debates and stuff. I stayed away from that. I'm wearing my cassock. Like, obviously I'm clergy. Like, I can't believe this guy talked about God and his faith and related it to logic. Well, I'm writing him, like, I'm writing a bad report on, he shouldn't teach here. I already know who you are. Like, I knew you were going to write that. I could see it from your face, and because you're a woman and you're leftoid. So just don't take my class. Nobody's forcing you to take my class. Why would you hit yourself? Why make yourself feel bad when you don't have to? You're not going to like me. Not everybody likes me. That's fine. Everybody has different things. Go take another class. Yeah, college is probably not for most people. Number 2, the students themselves were asking me about orthodoxy. I'm like, okay, you asked, I'll talk about it. What do I think about? And I never ever in class is like, You have to accept this. This is true, and I always present it in a very approachable way and be like, of course what I believe is true, and I will give you the arguments for why I hold those things. And I tell them, like, it's up to you. I'm not going to force this on you. I mean, I hope you use the tools that I'm teaching for you to think, but like, I trust you if you use the tools that I've taught you in class, that you can figure it out with an honest and open mind, right? But if you want to know why I think, and of course I think Orthodoxy is the truth, and Roman Catholic, I told them, I'm like, in Roman Catholicism, Protestant involved. And if you're interested in that, here's the arguments. Why is that so offensive? If you find that offensive, don't take my course. You're not going to like me at all, right? I'm not pushy. I don't proselytize, but I will talk about it. Because all these things do relate. And I will be danged if I have a leftoid liberal, and there's very few of them here at college, thank God. Yeah, especially snowflakes. Hijack my class and tone police me and control me into what I can say and teach. I remember I had one girl, it's always women, dude. They are such complainers. And this is the problem why we let women in the college and vote. Like, this is obviously, you can't keep your mouth shut and look pretty. You gotta look ugly and act up all the time and hysterics. Like, what do you do with a person that's like, they're totally hysterical, can't keep their history on it, and can't keep their mouth shut, and can't follow through logic because they're too emotionals? What do? Well, we should obviously send them to college, right? That's where they'll thrive, in a place where they're supposed to be quiet and learn, and decrease emotions and increase logical thinking. This is what we think. And then we got to get them out there into the workforce and managerial positions, which is a masculine trait, and pervert the whole thing and get them outside of the house and split the family, and make, right? And we'll pit them against each other, the family, by giving them the right to vote. And they can vote against their husbands and their family and be divided. A house divided. That's a great idea. That's what America's about. The destruction of family and dissolution of boundaries. And impracticality. Recipes for Disaster with Father Deacon Ananias. Hi, you're here on KFDA, and I'm your host, Father Deacon Ananias. And today we're going to be analyzing recipes for disaster in political, social context. Yeah, house star. That'll stay. That's right. So, what was I going to say about... Oh, I remember one student one year. That was like the only bad review that I've had in a really, really long time. So this is rare. Most of my students, 99.9, I said you have a third of a student? Yeah, it's sad. Like, we bring him, he's just like a torso, and we're like, to fit the statistical analysis, we bring in the guy that, I have no legs. But like, yes, he's the 0.3% in that 90. And we had to find him off the streets of Bangladesh because I had to get my statistics to match. 99.3% of students. Yeah. We bring him on a rolling table. There's like a video of a guy like on a skateboard, and he's just a torso, and he's like singing the song. He's like, I have no legs. I have no legs. And he's got his hand out, right, for... No, they're great students. Most of them, it's rare that I run. They're pretty normie, run-of-the-mill, just most normal student. Like, I think I pulled up once, like, I can pull it up. You just see. I like them. They're great. Carroll College. They're all. What's really kind of funny too. You're gonna trip on the demographic, but it's so true. I love Carroll. I know it's Catholic, but it's literally been the best job I've ever worked. They're so supportive. I love my boss, Dr. Mark Smiley. I actually like the Roman Catholic bishop too, Bishop Vetter. Bishop Eddie Vetter. Come to Carroll Call. So it's a diocesan college, so it's actually under him, but like he's a cool guy. Like they know I don't agree with their. That's where I teach. Oh, that was one of my students. Science! Woo! Just the most normal looking students, right? The chaplain's a great guy. Again, I don't have in person, like, these are actually great Roman Catholics. I've never had any problem. They're not the online Spurg. Father Tyler is a cool guy. Right? I mean, how normal do the students look? They're no green hair, liberal, leftoid. Oh, that was one of my students too. Excellent philosophy major. Javier from Spain. Anyways, great. Like, I love it. What can I say? So I'm qualifying that because, yeah, once in a blue moon, it seemed like, and they're all really conservatives, what I'm trying to say. Once in a blue moon, you might get a leftoid, liberal kind of, how are Montana and Ireland alike? Nothing alike. Irish people are totally captured, dude. Like, it was bad. It was bad when I left in 2011, the end of 2011. I found Irish to be anti-religious. They reacted to the kind of hibernianism of the 50s and 40s, and kind of the Roman Catholic scandals and stuff like that. They're an atheist. Ireland is an atheistic woke society. And what you see going on, like, there's still a remnant left. The Fighting Irish, right? They're there, and you see them pushing back and rioting against this stuff. Hibernia. But it's captured, like, it was captured back then. And weaponized migration, wokeness. Ireland wasn't it the first country to actually vote in abortion? It was extremely hostile to any religious, very secular, very woke, and progressive. So it couldn't be further from Montana. And we have more Irish, I think, per capita in Butte than anywhere else in the world, outside of Ireland. Yeah, Ireland's changed. Like, I saw it coming when I saw this stuff happen right when I was leaving. And I just can't believe, it's really sad. I can't believe what's happened to you. It's really but then it makes me happy that I'm like they're fighting back. I'm like, maybe again they pushed too hard. And it's not just Ireland, this has happened all over Europe. They specifically targeted Europe to destroy. So we'll see what happens. So, pray for Ireland. But anyways, I remember this one. So I was talking about virtue. We were doing a class in virtue ethics and Aristotle. And I was saying you can't be born with virtue. You can be born with natural talents. Virtue has to be acquired through hard work. And I was just giving the, kind of the nature of our fallen nature. Fallen nature is we always take the shortest route. We don't want to work hard for stuff. So let me give you an example. One of the leading drugs being sold today is Ozempic, right? This fat losing drug. And why? Because we would all it's rather get to the end product of losing weight without the hard work and just, take, inject ourselves with Ozempic than actually having to okay, I got to change my diet, blah, blah. I was just talking to giving an illustration. This girl comes up to me. I was offended at what you said. I'm like, I don't care. That's what I should have said. But again, it's like, it's hard because I care for these students, and I'm like, if I said that, I would just totally turn them off, and I wouldn't be able to help them at all. But that's my gut reaction. Be like, I could care less about if you're offended. I'm offended that you're offended. Like, there. Checkmate. Like, what a stupid. Number two, you're the student, and I'm the professor. Now, of course, there's a certain language and behavior that would be uncalled for. I get it. But that's not what that's ridiculous. Notice these people are relativists. They do not believe in absolute truth. Now they haven't worked this out intellectually. What they do believe is in power. So what they've learned through the system is I can get what I want and control the professor, even though the professor's above me, by using semantic sorcery, word wizardry, and emotional manipulation. And if you read my psychological, state-certified psychological eval, that is the one thing that says is one of the worst things you could do to me, is try to emotionally manipulate me and micromanage me through control. And it says he believes in truth and principles, and so it really, he'll react, I forget the way it says, he'll react violently and he'll start biting like a mad dog. So I had to hold my tongue, and I was like, okay, well, I tried to move it into a philosophically, a big philosophy. She's like, I knew you'd say that. I'm like, yeah, I'm a philosophy professor. Like, so what's the argument? Well, I know lots of people are overweight, and you're treating it like it's a disability, and she was just going all through this typical woke. Some people can't help it. Like you running your mouth. I'll tell you what the problem is right there. Got another woman doing this. See, we wouldn't have a problem if you just shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Can you imagine if I said that? Just totally become the full-blown misogynist that they... Oh, you have misogynophobia. You have an irrational fear of misogyny. That's all right. There's a solution for that. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me. I'll start rapping the shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Yap, yap. Or she can never get a line. Just keep making fun. But just repeat back to, I'm really offended. So they can't get, if you're talking, you're not listening. Right? And it takes two to tango. I had to sit there, but I was upset. Like, I had to really hold my tongue, and I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I'm like, maybe I could put it a different way, but you're missing the point. Like, because she thought I was specifically targeting fat people, and I was. I can't stand them. I can't, just absolutely disgusting. I'm joking. I said it was generally speaking, like, it's a principle in all of us. We all got the fat gene. No, we all have the kind of the fallen nature of, like, yeah, I'd rather, like, take the shortcut than work hard and, as the Finns say, my sisu, unnecessary hard work to establish virtue. And I'm like, that's what I was trying to get. And I'm like, so, but that was really hard. I mean, like, you're going to reverse the roles that you're the teacher. Have you ever thought maybe you're wrong in this situation? Like, and what is this? This is the thing I want to ask people. Suppose you're right. Is it helpful? Did it progress the situation? Did you change my mind on, by running your woman lips about, I'm so offended, and trying to emotionally manipulate me through your wokeism and all? Did it help? Did it make the situation better? It made me look down on you. That you are a failure as a human being. Like, I'm like, that's not, and I'm being a little bit harsh and hyperbolic with that, but I'm like, that's not what a, human being par excellence looks like. You have serious moral failures that I didn't know until you ran your mouth like that and tried to emotionally manipulate me through your wokeism. So, something came up recently with somebody that I'm close to. They're not woke or something like that, but I was like talking to a friend about who knows this person. I'm like, regardless if it was true or false, we always have to think about, and people just think, well, it's true, I have to say it. No, you don't. It's immature to do that. And I have to stop myself. I fall into it. I fall into the trap. I have to stop myself all the time where I'm like, I know I'm right, but do I have to say it? Well, will it make the situation better? Does it make me better? Did I grow anything? Did the other person grow? Did it change the situation? If not, why am I saying it? Well, because it's true. People have this idea like, speak your truth. You just have to, like, it's like, no. That's abstraction is a very kind of modern kind of idea because it separates the transcendentals, right? Truth, goodness, and beauty. It separates truth as if it's this free-floating, abstract deity entity that we worship, and that it's separated from virtue. I remember Abbas Emiliani said something to Jay Dyer once that, like, blew my mind. This was after that professor punched him in the... You see the story about at the philosophy conference at the monastery. By the way, it was the first time I met Jay in person, and he's like, I'm out of here. I'm like, you just got here. He's like, I just got assaulted. I'm like, congratulations. I thought he got, like, intellectually hazing or something. I'm like, oh, we all do. He's like, no, I was physically assaulted. I'm like, what? And I thought it was something Jay did. I was like, oh, great. Jay and his, mean Jay, you could probably just ran his mouth and got, and it turns out it wasn't him at all. It was actually the professor that was really interesting. But Jay was like, Abbas Emiliano, like, you've heard stories about, she's clairvoyant, like, she's got gifts and stuff like that. And so Jay's like, what? He was like all scared to say, like, what should I say to her, ask her? And I'm like, is she gonna say, like, I'm like, I don't know, just ask her if you have any advice for me or something. Like, she's still a normal human being. And she says, Jay, always speak the truth. And it's not true unless it's love, and it's not love unless it's true. So see this symbiosis. And love doesn't mean be nice, by the way. That's not. But I'm like, that's actually a really great thing to say. And so notice with what I'm talking here is that if I separate truth from virtue, that's what these people have. Like, that's a very modern, because we have a virtue epistemology and a virtue ethics. They're together. It's not true unless it's connected to, so I could retranslate Abyssinians. It's not true unless it leads to virtue, and it's not virtue unless it leads to truth, because they're overlapping like Venn circles. But in modernity, it's like, oh, I should just say it because it's true. We worship truth not as a person, by the way. But as an abstract propositional idea apart from a person, an hypothesization of a person and virtues and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why it's like, just because it's true, don't say it. And how many times are like I've thought about that, or like this situation. I always like wanted to go back and be like, how is it helpful? I don't care if like it's true that you're offended. Why do you think that this is helpful? Because it's obviously offending me that you're being offended and you're making a deal about this. So let's just step back and think about, did it advance you morally? Did it make you a better person because you morally chastised and corrected the professor? No? Then why'd you do it? Did it make me better? No. So what did it accomplish? Like, nothing but division. Like, we're divided now. Like, I've lost respect for you because you did that. And I think, more about talking to people about that in terms of the practicality of, like, betterment. Did you better your situation or anybody else's? But it's true. I really don't care about that because you've separated from the virtues, which are the most important. Anyways, just my thoughts. Good stream. Let me just check and make sure I haven't. Missed any super chats. I want to thank you all for your support. Remember, science. Well, maybe that's the new debate tactic. Anytime. Do you remember on South Park, Mark Lark. What if we were like science? So that's my new debate tactic. Anytime I reject, be like science. Obviously not science. Well, yes, science. That's my new psyop debate tactic to that, and just to repeat back I don't agree with the argument. Why are you mocking? Stop. I'm gonna do a whole course on CIA psyop debate tactics with FDA. But that's a new one. Science. With that, may the Lord bless you. Thank you for appreciating my jokes. I know that they're finally going to call the police on me because clergy are not supposed to be normal human beings and laugh and make jokes about anything. So it was a good run, and but they're finally going to come up to me, appeal to By the way, the future will not have, you'll notice this, right? In dystopic societies, there's no comedies banned. So we're going into an aeon, by the way, that, I'm not kidding you. Not only do people not get comedy, certainly satire. Oh, really? It's not allowed. Like, look at the thing. Like, he made a joke about domestic violence, right? I'm like, not really, but made a joke about a fallacy about something that should be taken seriously. Well, it's not allowed. You see, there's no comedy allowed. Not only people are retarded, they can't understand it. It will not be allowed in the future because of what? Science. There's nothing funny in science. It's just facts. Just the facts, man. Right? There's no place for humor in science. God. Lord have mercy. Anyways, glad you guys do appreciate my humor. It's what makes us human beings. And may we all learn to be better human beings each and every day. Until next time, God bless you guys. Bye-bye.